Oh, I thought it was an enormously effective speech. Remember, Donald Trump has been talking for months about Joe Biden as mentally shot, a captive of the left. And yes, Biden was reading from a teleprompter and a prepared speech, but I thought that he blew a big hole in that characterization. You talked about the line that character is on the ballot, decency is on the ballot. He talked about a different path for the country. Not in a deep programmatic sense, but he did talk about plans for the virus and the economy, for climate change and race and foreign policy. And he talked about what a united America can do to accomplish all of those things. It seems to me that after tonight, Donald Trump is going to have to run against a candidate, not a caricature. The Democrats have had a good convention. Now it's the Republicans' turn.
Michelle Obama stuck the landing. I think, keeping with that theme, that Joe Biden just hit a home run in the bottom of the ninth, which I think I got that right in terms of the sports. He had pace, rhythm, energy, emotion, and delivery. So I think that if he looks back, he's got to say that's probably the best speech of his life. And he really just took the moment. And I love that. Now, there was, on the policy side of things, a little bit of incoherence. In a 3-sentence stanza, he said he was going to create millions of jobs through green investments paid for by repealing the Trump tax cuts. If you tease that out, I'm not exactly sure how that works, but this was a speech that was 80% appealing to the heart, 20% policy. Now we'll turn it over to the Republicans. I do just want to say congratulations to Stephanie Cutter, who put on the first unconventional convention. Turned out to be a pretty good one.
The finale right there.
Balloons.
The candidates, there we go with the honking horns behind us. Karl Rove, your thoughts on this convention?
Well, I thought it was an excellent end. It was a very good speech. He had a balancing act here tonight. He was trying to balance two different things. One was the image portraying himself as a unifier who would bring the country together. He did so, I thought, very effectively. And if I were a Republican strategist in the Trump campaign, I'd be worried about how long and how effectively he carries that theme forward, because that's the thing that will keep the swing voters in his camp, if they are in his camp, or bring them to him.
If you're Joe Biden and you make a clean sweep of Chris Wallace, Dana Perino, and Karl Rove, you gotta imagine you did something right. The collective praise from the full panel of Fox News personalities came after a wildly successful speech by Joe Biden. Not only because it proved him a man of compassion and character and intelligence and qualification, and his speech did do all of those things, but also because he exceeded far and away the expectations set by the Trump team themselves. For months, the Trump campaign has basically painted Biden as nothing more than a corpse. They said he was in cognitive decline. They said he couldn't string two sentences together. They said he wasn't capable of a coherent thought. Politically speaking, Trump and his advisors could not have done more of a disservice to themselves, because by setting the bar basically on the ocean floor, really all Biden had to do was survive to the end of the convention, and already he'd have exceeded expectations. They set expectations so low that it was impossible for Biden to fail. And yet, when not only did he not fail, but blew everyone out of the water with one of the best speeches of his career, then it was effectively game over for the Trump campaign. What the Trump team should have done was set expectations high and made it so that even a slight gaffe would have meant that Biden didn't deliver. Ultimately, they would have still failed given Biden's stellar performance, but at least they would have given themselves a chance. And yet this is proof that Trump is poorly served by a team as inept as his, because all they know how to do is fight. They don't have a strategy, they don't have discipline, they don't have the ability to adapt. All they can do is attack, attack, attack. And that is because that's the only way that Trump knows. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so now the Republican convention will begin, and the ultimate irony will be when he fails in comparison to the guy who only days ago he was claiming couldn't string two words together. Trump spent the last 6 months promising that Biden didn't know what day of the week it is, and yet we're gonna see Trump on stage now rambling on about killer windmills and dying birds and toilets that don't flush and low pressure shower heads and soldiers with no bullets and empty cupboards and college football and airports during the Revolutionary War and hurricanes that are very wet from the standpoint of water, and about Obama spying on Trump Tower and Antifa super soldiers and abolishing the suburbs and injecting disinfectant and dementia tests. And somehow that guy wants us to think that he's the more mentally fit one of the two. And yet the explanation here is pretty simple. Trump only knows how to project. And so when he fell over himself screeching about how Joe Biden is in cognitive decline, how he's unfit to lead, how he's an extremist, how he'll bring ruin to this country, he was talking about himself. None of those things apply to Joe Biden, and everyone can see that. Even Chris Wallace and Dana Perino and Karl Rove can acknowledge that freely on Fox News. Biden's entire campaign is predicated on unity, on restoring a sense of decency, on deferring to science, on creating union jobs, on helping everyone other than the richest Americans. It's Trump whose only tactic is to divide, who traffics in hate and division, who denies science when we need it most, who has lost more jobs than any president in modern American history, and who has only looked to help people just like himself, the richest Americans. So when he lobs baseless attacks at Joe Biden, it's not based in reality, it's just him projecting. So as Chris Wallace said, it's now the Republicans' turn, and because their party is nothing more than a cult of personality around Trump, this entire convention will likely mirror his presidency, which is to say chaotic and inflammatory and bigoted. And because Trump's ego runs the show, we'll also hear from Trump all 4 nights, which is, to be honest, only going to help Joe Biden. And that is because Donald Trump is incapable of being anyone other than Donald Trump. And that is a distinction that every single Democrat would absolutely love to see him make. There will be no greater gift to the Biden campaign than 4 straight nights of rambling diatribes, fear-mongering about God knows what. The truth is that Trump can't get out of his own way, and yet we're more than willing to let him fail. While you're here, please subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deeper dive into the week's biggest stories and interview major players in the world of politics, like Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker, Eric Swalwell, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.